Hey guys, thanks for joining. I'll be starting really soon. Just want to let everybody else get in here before we get started. Okay, hey guys, it's 1 o'clock, so I figure I'll start right now. I'll share my screen and I'll kind of start going through how to set up your ManyChat account kind of before running any kind of ranking campaigns or anything really, even insert cards. So this week's topic is going to be setting up your ManyChat account. So how to do it actually successfully and not just make an account and then start, installing templates and editing it and then essentially running into problems down the line because you haven't maybe enabled OTN, or maybe you didn't disable some of the kind of, I want to say, junk automation that just comes with making an account. So that's this week's topic. Now, just before we get into kind of the actual topic and going into that, we'll just go over some small housekeeping rules. So usually these calls last around an hour. I'm not going to lie, this one here might go quite a bit over. Maybe not quite a bit, but it'll go probably a little bit more just because of the length of the actual, just like all the topics I got to cover. So it might go a little over in this particular case. If I ever do kind of unmute, which hasn't happened in any of these calls yet, but just don't share any kind of sensitive information. Don't try to keep things reserved because keep in mind this is recorded and others will have access to this. So if you do share sensitive information, then that's obviously on your own kind of risk. If you guys have any questions, you can raise your hand inside Zoom, and then it'll kind of notify me, and then I'll be able to kind of answer that. I will give you guys a bit of time to kind of give any questions you have, maybe before I jump into the main topic, so that way we can kind of answer things. And it doesn't have to be about ManyChat setup. It could be about anything really. It could be, I don't know, about so topic, maybe the last topic I had, which was paid messages, and so on. So this one here, I'm not gonna lie, I should have edited this right here because it says it's for only paid. But Troy wanted to open it up to everybody. So right now everybody has access to this particular training right now that we're kind of doing. So keep in mind that usually it's only for paid members, and we're not fully decided whether or not we're gonna open it up to everybody or we're gonna kind of leave it a little reserved. So yeah, anyways, that's more or less it for the kind of housekeeping rules. Do you guys have any kind of questions before I dive into kind of ManyChat setup? I'm just kind of looking right here and I don't see any. So I'll give it a little bit longer just in case if you guys are maybe typing it in right now. But if I see no kind of questions, then I'll just kind of jump right into it. Yes, I gotta. Okay, so I do see. What subtopic are you covering? So yeah, I'll be diving into the kind of subtopics really soon in the next slide, if you will. So let me actually just hover over that slide right here. You'll see. I just have to invite somebody really quickly, guys. Sorry about this. Invite here. Okay, here it is. Sorry about this, guys. I'm just trying to get Troy in here. Okay, there you go. I think you should be able to join with that. Okay, sorry about that, guys. So I think there are, by the looks of it, there's no kind of questions. So I'm just going to continue along here. And these are essentially the 6 subtopics that I'm going to be talking about in ManyChat setup. So the first one being kind of disabling slash removing that useful automation that just comes with making a Facebook page as well as a ManyChat account. So an example of this would be disabling the default reply. something that ManyChat just automatically has on there. And that could cause quite a bit of problems in terms of like when they're running, let's say, a rebate giveaway or any type of automation, the default message will actually just trigger sometimes if like the user gets stuck and they just type in something random. And sometimes even when they click a button or they do a quick reply, it can actually trigger as well. So all in all, the default reply is just it's not ideal to have that on. And then there's also other automations that is enabled on the Facebook page itself. An example of this, I think, one is appointment reminder, and then the other one is frequently asked questions. I don't quote me on that. I have pictures on this actually going into those two, how to disable it. But I believe those are the two names that are going into that. Okay, so I see Troy just joined. So I'm just going to keep going because you didn't miss much, Troy. So the next one is going to be kind of organizing your content. So this is just making sure like things are in folders. So it's not just like a massive list of all the flows kind of in one or two folders. And then emojis, this is something I do quite a lot of, which is just emoji and kind of the flows and the template or the folders, just to kind of remind myself, oh, that's exactly what that is. Because I use kind of the same emojis for certain aspects. So I'm able to quickly identify what's what, even if I'm hopping through account to account that I manage. Another thing is kind of setting up more or less the basic flows. And these basic flows are mainly for Amazon sellers, just because that's kind of what we do here. So it'll be kind of setting up list management, sign up flows, welcome message, refer a friend. Unfortunately, I don't think I'll have the time to go over all these flows. And these are flows that I've went over in the past in like some other kind of webinars. I will talk about them a little bit, but I don't believe I'll have time just because of how tight this is going to be. Like I know how long the presentation is, and I just don't think I'll have the chance to actually go through these flows with a good amount of detail. So I highly advise you take a look at some of the past recordings if you want to learn more about these particular flows. Also, I'll be actually giving the link to these flows, like the template link, so you'll be able to download them. And theoretically, if you're fairly comfortable with ManyChat, you'll actually be able to understand exactly what it is just by downloading it, because the way I build my flows, I give a lot of kind of comments, like they're called more notes or comments inside Flow Builder. So you'll see what it's all about just by reading through that. One of the other topics that I'm going to be talking about, or subtopics, I suppose, is going to be the live chat. So actually putting snippets, and this is what ManyChat calls them, they're called snippets, but essentially it's just like quick replies for you to give the customers or whoever it is that's having an issue with your ManyChat bot or something like that. You can basically customize a message and then just quickly click a button on the live chat tab and then send them that message without needing to copy paste it from maybe a Google document or something like that, which is what I remember like kind of old support team would do. And then the other subtopic is cleaning your audience. So this is just like removing leads that are either useless or you can no longer message, or at least segmenting them so you understand, what leads are really like you can't message at all and they're just costing you more money, because that's how ManyChat works, is they bill you by subscriber count. So if you're not able to message these subscribers, then it's just costing you more money for literally no reason. And then the last topic or subtopic is going to be creating conversion events. Now, this is just something inside ManyChat. And then additionally, we'll be also creating custom audiences inside Facebook. I won't actually go into creating a custom audience in Facebook, but I'll be going into adding users to a custom audience within ManyChat, which is really, really effective, especially when you're doing like insert cards or rebates or some type of Facebook advertising where you can literally say make a custom audience based on actions that users have taken inside your ManyChat flows. So an example of this would be like, say, a rebate flow. If they get all the way through the end and they purchase, then you can create a custom audience saying exclude these people. And then that way you're excluding them from seeing your advertising again. So that way they don't get confused and try to get the offer twice. And you can even create a custom audience, therefore kind of helping you maybe reach new target audiences. Okay, that was all of them in a nutshell. So I'm just going to check. It seems like there may have been a question here. It may have SMS-based regulations. So yeah, there is some changes that ManyChat is doing regarding SMS, but I don't believe this is going to change anything in terms of like Seller.Tools with their automation. And if it does, I'll be sure to kind of update those changes. But from what I read this morning, it won't change at all. They're really just changing kind of the billing as well as how you're able to get the phone number. Like you need to have, I think, certain type of permissions. I didn't look into it in depth, but I just remember reading a little bit of it. And it's like, you need to be compliant for the new, or not the new, but the US carriers, which I'm not sure exactly what that entails, but I'm pretty sure it just means like, hey, you need to make sure you have permission to get these people's phone numbers, which we do. The way the flows are worded, especially the SMS flow, it's like, hey, you're going to agree to accept, phone numbers and so on. So I don't think it'll affect it, but if it does, I'll be sure to change that. Does ManyChat custom audience work when running ads? Yep, it does. If similar people. Yeah, so it should still work as long as you're in kind of the when you do a Facebook ad, there's kind of 3 levels to it. There's the campaign level, the ad set, and then the ad. And in the ad set, you're able to determine who's able to see the ad. And if you exclude people that are in a certain custom audience, then those users should not see your advertising at all. So what you can do is you can create a custom audience. You can create more than one, obviously, but you can create one custom audience that says exclude users from X rebate or something. And then within your rebate flow, once they kind of get that that tag saying, oh, they've gotten the rebate or they've gotten the offer, right? I mean, they might not have gotten the rebate because the rebate does come after whenever it's been shipped, but you can give it to them as soon as they give their order number and it's been verified and so on. And then that's when you put them in the custom audience, and that's when you exclude them from your Facebook advertising. I do have an example kind of further down the line. That's actually one of the last topics or subtopics I'll be talking about in the call. I think I answered them all. Troy, do you want to add anything? I see you unmuted yourself. So
yes. Hey, hi. Glad to be here. Yeah, no, I wanted to just quickly before you jump into the meat of what you have ready for everyone, just say hello. I was a little bit late coming in. I said my hello in the chat, and I can tell everybody may be a little bit shy today, but let us know if you have any questions, if you have any feedback as Tyler's going through things, just to make sure. Again, Tyler can't brag on himself. Tyler works with some clients that generate truly tens of millions of dollars in profit on Amazon, list sizes that are 6 figures and up. So he is a really great expert and resource, and exactly why we have this training is to kind of tap into what's working right now. What are we stress testing with our own clients? Tyler works even with some of our brands. He knows what we're working on, what kind of strategies we're deploying, how we're leveraging some of the things that we're talking about. So definitely get your questions out there, get them answered, and yeah, take full advantage. And we're excited to see familiar faces and names and some new ones today as well. So looking forward to it. And in true Tyler fashion, I'm sure we're gonna have all kinds of links and free resources, things that will make sure that even though we discuss some of the content, you'll have things that you can implement right away, which is a big theme with these trainings.
Yep, that's correct. I do have, like, the main resource will actually be the Google document, which is kind of beta, and eventually that will transition on the website, I'm sure of it. As of right now, you guys have probably noticed we've went through kind of a rebranding, and there's kind of a lot of, I would say, chaos going on, but we're getting things sorted out. So it will end up most likely on the site. I don't know when, but at some point the kind of beta flows will end up on the site, and then you guys can have access from it from there. But you guys in this call will have early access to kind of the beta templates that I'm talking about, which is, like list management, sign up flows, referring a friend, so on. And I was hoping to get a couple, like the insert cards ones done this week, but unfortunately I'll probably get it done tomorrow. I know I got one basically done. I just need to actually make the template link and add a couple more comments. Anyway, so carrying on, we're going to go with the first kind of subtopic here, which is disabling, / harmful automation that just comes with making a ManyChat account / Facebook page. For whatever reason, these things are on by default, and it kind of sucks because it does affect you, especially down the line when you start doing things either at scale or just starting out. It'll kind of mess up your bot and things won't work out perfectly. So the first thing, and don't worry guys, I have screenshots after this, so I'll just talk about it and then I'll show you guys screenshots and you guys will be able to see, okay, that's how you disable it. So the first thing is just disabling the ManyChat default reply. So as soon as you make a ManyChat, like, or as soon as you basically connect a Facebook page to a ManyChat account, you're basically, by default, this default reply will be on. And essentially this can really affect your bot because in a negative way, because as soon as your, say, users are interacting with your bot, like a automation series, like a rebate giveaway, for example, if they maybe do a quick reply or maybe they click a button, it doesn't always trigger, but sometimes it will. And then it'll kind of interrupt them and then they can get kind of lost and they won't know what to do. Or if they just like type in something, it can then, trigger right away, and then it'll kind of veer them off track. And then those leads, I should say, are going to be basically wasted. So you definitely want to disable this just to kind of avoid that. The second thing is actually disabling the frequently asked questions and the appointment reminder inside the Facebook page itself. Now, for whatever reason, this is just automatically enabled when you make a Facebook page, and you want to disable these because it does affect you in a slight way. Because if they're not interacting with the Facebook ad, like this one's a little bit harder to explain, because essentially what happens is that if they're about to interact with your bot, they get this little get started button, and below it or sometimes around it, there might be additional buttons like I'm interested, show me more, or tell me more, or something along those lines. Like these quick reply little buttons are essentially what Facebook calls as icebreakers. And these buttons are actually not connected to anything. So in most cases, you'll just see like the interested, tell me more. And then you'll be like, that there's no bot that actually has this on there. Why am I getting this? So it just kind of throws you off, as well as the users and the leads that you're getting from maybe your advertising and so on. So you definitely want to just disable that so you don't see that kind of error, if you will. And then the third thing, and this isn't really kind of disabling or anything, but this is enabling OTN. This is something that I think is really powerful. I know some people have had negative experiences with it. I haven't had, like, my clients and myself, we've been using it like a lot, especially for internal giveaways, which is a topic I won't be able to cover in an immense amount of detail, but I will just touch on it a little bit. But enabling this is free, super simple. And it's just a great way to get a hold of the kind of leads coming in. So that way you can notify them about whatever it is. It could be about a future rebate. It could be about a review follow-up. It could be about all kinds of things. Usually I use it for review follow-up as well as rebate, kind of future rebates, right? So I'm like, hey, would you be interested in our future rebate? And then it's like a little notify me button. And about, like, I'd say like 98% of them click that, because obviously they'd be interested if they've already claimed one. Keep in mind though, just a little side note, OTN is not available for EU users. And if you have any EU kind of admins on your Facebook page, it'll actually disable OTN. Even if you have it enabled, it'll disable it. So it really does kind of suck, because it kind of punishes anybody in the Europe side of the world. So you want to make sure that they're not associated with the Facebook page. They can actually be in the ManyChat account as long as they're not admins. They have to be editors. So just keep that in mind, that unfortunately the EU users are affected by this. ManyChat/Facebook has announced that they're going to reverse these changes at some point. They didn't announce when, so we don't know when that'll actually happen. So just keep in mind for now, if you are working with anybody in the EU, or you are in the EU, you're going to be affected by that. So here's the screenshots for disabling the default reply. So this is kind of the back end of ManyChat. When you do kind of log in, you'll see this, right? I'm just kind of logged into the Seller.Tools one. So what you're going to want to do, and if you don't see it exactly like this, like the bar might be open a little bit more. I just like to have my bar kind of closed off, because I already know what these icons are all by heart. But essentially, you're going to want to click the settings tab, right? So it's this little gear icon. And then once you do that, it's going to lead you to this kind of page, which is the settings tab. And then you're going to want to click into Messenger, right? So it's right under channel, and it'll just be Messenger. Oh, whoops, I didn't mean to. Okay, so let me just go next slide. Okay, so the next kind of screenshot then brings you to this page once you hit Messenger, and you'll see default reply more or less kind of in the middle, or at the top of the page, I should say, right? Because we're scrolled up. And you want to hit edit. Now, once you hit edit, you'll be brought to this kind of flow right here. And again, this is something that's just automatically there. And I disable it in this screenshot. So if when you do get into this, it'll be kind of enabled most likely. And this little kind of toggle bar will be green. You just want to click it, and then it'll be kind of leaning towards the disabled, and it should look exactly like this. And if you really want, I've seen some people, and this is not something I do, but I've seen others do this, where they'll actually keep it enabled and they'll just change the flow to just put the conversation in the open folder. So that way, when you're in the live chat right over here, there's like two folders. There's the open folder and done folder. And the open folder just makes it so like these are the conversations that are open that you should tend to. Again, I don't do that, but I've seen others do that. So I just wanted to kind of mention that. I would recommend just disabling it. But again, if you want to put it in the open folder and then just take a look at what the person may be having a hard time with, then you could do it that way. Okay, the next thing, disabling the useless Facebook automation. So you got to sign into, like, you have to make sure that whatever account you're signed into is the admin, or at least some type of editor permissions on the Facebook page. Then you go into the Facebook page, and it should look like something like this. So essentially, you want to scroll all the way down, and hopefully, like if you're seeing this recording in the future, hopefully they don't change the layout. I feel like Facebook has to change it every 6 months just to make our lives a little harder. But hopefully it looks more or less the same. But essentially you need to scroll down, like there'll be kind of a scroll. Unfortunately, you can't really see it from this screenshot, but you'll scroll down until you see settings, right over here. And then you're going to click on the Facebook page settings. And then from the settings, you'll kind of see all the different kind of tabs here. And you're going to want to click the messaging tab. So right under general. I know I'm going a little fast. I don't know if this will be kind of a resource. I don't know. What do you think, Troy? Will these slides be something that we want to share with everybody, so that way they can keep these screenshots? Because it is a little hard to memorize everything I'm going to be showing, because there's literally 40 slides. So I'm thinking at the end of this, we'll be able to perhaps give you guys the kind of Google Slides as just a resource so you guys can do all these things. It can be
Sure.
kind of a SOP. Okay, awesome.
Yep, let's do it.
Okay, so the next thing after you click messaging, you need to kind of scroll down slightly, or basically all the way. And then it's going to be right under setup automation responses. And you just want to click the little setup button. And then you'll see it'll bring you right here, like right to this page. And you might have to scroll down, up and down, just to see these two settings perfectly. But you basically want to disable everything here. Because again, these are the things that might trigger, they call them icebreakers. And essentially it might be one of those things that users will see when they interact with your page or your messenger bot, and they might see it as a like quick reply. And if they click that, then nothing happens. It just doesn't do anything. So it kind of affects you in a negative way, because then they get kind of confused, and then you're kind of confused because you're like, I don't even know where these people are coming from. So you usually want to disable these two things. So yeah, if there's more toggled on, you want to disable them as well. But usually these are the only two that I've noticed that are always enabled by default. Okay, then the last thing we're going to go into here is to kind of go into OTN and enabling OTN. So again, I'm on the Seller.Tools page. Similar to kind of the other settings, you want to be in the Facebook page settings. So you'd click settings. And then remember how we clicked messaging in the last one? Well, now we want to click advanced messaging. And then you have to scroll down, I want to say about middle of the page, roughly speaking. And then you'll see kind of this featured request zone. I know there's like all these, I tried making it so it was kind of mapped out well, but anyways, you want to click this little button right here. And again, it's not here right now because it's enabled, but there'll be a button right here saying like enable OTN or something along those lines. It might be a little bit different. I think it's request feature or something. Don't quote me on that, but you want to click a little button that'll be right here. And once you click that button, this should automatically turn green, and then you'll be good to go. Again, the only time I think it won't go green is if, again, you're in maybe the EU, or EU users are on your Facebook page as admins or even editors, because then it kind of disables OTN, so it messes you up a little bit. I've never had a problem with enabling this. It's always been very easy for me, just because here in Canada, or here in the West, I should say, we don't have those kind of limitations. All right, guys. So that was it kind of for the first thing, which is just disabling and enabling OTN, disabling the useless automation, enabling OTN, which is useful automation. So that was the first subtopic. I see there's quite a bit in the chat. I don't know if, should I be answering this, or have you been?
I've got it, Tyler. I've got it.
Okay. Okay,
I'm
cool.
keeping an eye on things. So yeah.
All right. Awesome.
If
Awesome.
there is
Just
any
cut me.
other questions.
Yeah, cut me off if there's something like kind of important that you see, because I know I'm going a little bit quickly here just because I know how long this is going to last. So I'm trying to be somewhat reasonable with your guys' time. So the next thing is organizing the ManyChat content. Now, this is something that's not absolutely like super necessary, but I would recommend it a lot, especially if you're starting out and you have a plan of like maybe getting a team involved, or you're working with others. Or maybe you plan on like hiring some of this out, like meaning you plan on maybe doing some of the basic things, and then you're like, the advanced stuff, like maybe insert cards or something along those lines, I would like somebody else to do it. If it's organized right off the bat, it's going to make their lives a little easier as well as yours, because then you're going to be able to just tell them like, hey, just keep things kind of neat. The first thing is in terms of like ManyChat building, and again, I'll have screenshots of this, but you'll really want to name your nodes. I see a lot of just all kinds of builders not really name them, and it is a little annoying to name everything, but it does help in terms of like having the editors look at it and be able to understand what's going on. Adding comments, so like things that might need editing, or maybe they need a little bit additional work, or maybe it does something a little bit more on the technical side, you might want to add comments inside Flow Builder just to give more context into what that automation does. And then node layout. So try not to have it like a bee's nest where it's like scattered everywhere. Like usually I like to have it so it's like reading a book where you start from the left and you end to the right, and it just kind of continues like that. And the paths it goes down. So like if there's like a yes, no option, is like the yes goes up, the no goes down, because the no usually will end, right? Like the automation only goes to a certain point when it's a no option, and then when it's yes, it continues and it keeps going. So just be mindful about how you're building and how you're laying out and how you're naming things. Especially, again, this is mainly for if you're going to have a team or multiple people kind of working inside your ManyChat account. So this other thing, this is again like another really optional thing, but is putting emojis on like your flows or your folder. I usually put them just at the start, and usually it's like a special little emoji for whatever thing. Like, so an example, I use the cogwheel a lot when it's a flow that I don't need to edit, like it's just good the way it is. And then for other ones, like example would be for my like kind of rebate automation, I have a police guy when they've already tried getting the rebate, right? So there's like a little policeman emoji, because you want to stop them. So I just kind of use emojis that make sense for a particular flow, and I try to cut things up quite a lot. Inside the 3 Seller.Tools ones, I try to keep it kind of the way that the structure was before I joined the team. So I do kind of keep it things a little bit on the bigger scale, but again, I tried condensing it as much as I could, so it made sense for you guys. And the last thing is just naming your growth tools. So when you make a growth tool, Facebook, or not Facebook, but ManyChat automatically names it like growth tool 99 or growth tool XYZ, and then it just, people won't know it. Like, again, this is like mainly for when you have a team, you want to be naming it. So like if it's let's say a rebate giveaway, you want to be like product name, ref URL, or JSON code. So that way people know, oh, that was for this. Oh, that's for this. Okay, that's here. So that way when you do have like kind of a list of growth tools, which does happen, especially the more you use an account, the older it is, and so on, like you'll just have like a list of all these growth tools. And if they're all named like growth tool 99, growth tool 100, growth tool 101, it gets really confusing really quickly. And then the last thing is just, and this one is really like really being a perfectionist at this point, is giving a description to your custom fields, bot fields, and OTN topics. Again, something most, I would say, builders and just kind of when you're on the go, you don't really think of these things, especially considering it doesn't actually benefit you in any way. I just like to really organize things. So yeah, that is kind of the last one, is just naming your custom fields or giving them actual descriptions, as well as your bot fields and OTN topics. Okay, so let me go into kind of the examples here. So this is just an example of what kind of one of my flows looks like. I'm sure, again, you guys will have access to all these flows, by the way, so you guys can, or at least the beta ones, um, inside like kind of a Google document, so you can take a look at yourself. But essentially, this is just one of the examples I took, and this is just one of the rebate automations that I've made. And you'll see that there are different kind of comments here, right? There's instructions, optional step, and notes. Those are the three content types that I usually have. Instructions is something the editor needs to do. Optional step is something that's optional. And then notes is just something for you to consider. So those are kind of the comments I have here. And then you'll see just kind of the structure, how it's like, again, like reading a book, like it starts here, goes here, goes here, goes here, and then it keeps going kind of down the line. This is just a really zoomed in photo. I could have zoomed out, but then it would have been really confusing because you wouldn't have been able to read anything. And as you can see also, I named all the nodes here, like the action node, the condition node, and right over here, you can see it a little bit as well. And this is just the structure. Again, you don't have to do everything exactly the way I'm talking about, just because like you might have your own spin flavor to it, that's fine. But it is a good idea to just keep things somewhat organized, whether or not you're naming it, smaller or longer, that's fine. Just to make it so the team or the people that come in later down the line into the account will actually understand what your flows are. I've been in a lot of different flows, and even me being pretty good at deciphering what's going on, what's this, what's that. It can get really overwhelming when it's just like a massive flow and nothing's really named. And it's just kind of going everywhere, and like there's little lines everywhere, and it's just like, oh man, this is going to be quite a nightmare to understand. So I can just imagine how it is for somebody that's maybe not as like comfortable in ManyChat. And so if you're not as comfortable and then you get like an overwhelming flow, even though it might make sense to you, it won't make much sense to somebody else coming in. So it's just a good practice to get used to building things out in an organized manner. Okay, the next example here is just kind of folder organization. So as you can see here, and I can maybe zoom in just a little bit. Okay, it didn't work. Okay, I forget. Let me just go in presentation mode actually. There you go, that's zoomed in quite a bit more. So if you look at the kind of folder name, this is just like the main folder, and you see that like I got my core flows, template flows, imported flows, and I got all these kind of emojis in every single kind of folder. And I've even named folders, like if there's a lot of folders inside, like let's say that one folder, then I have it like an S. If there's only one, then it only has no S. So I do actually keep mine plural and so on, just to keep things even more organized. And basically every, I would say, rebate automation kind of accounts that I'm in, like the accounts that are just really mainly for rebates and maybe insert cards, I always have core flows, and I put a little star and astromeric's there just so that way it's always on the left side, like the top thing, because core flows is essentially everything that's built around it. Like that's where your list management should be, your refer a friend, your sign up flows, all the kind of main components that might not necessarily be a rebate giveaway flow, but it is going to maybe help it out or bring in leads and so on. So the next kind of example here is I just want to actually, so like if I was to click this is the page I would see next. And this is where you can see kind of all the next level of that. So then it's even more folderized. And these are kind of the templates that I am working on. The ones that like the astromerics are the ones that I'm working on. And again, this is just, so if there was other people kind of on their ManyChat team that was working on these flows as well with me, then they would know, okay, these are the ones that he's working on. And the flows that I am working on, you'll see the astromerics as well, but I didn't take a screenshot of that. I just wanted to show you guys kind of what this looks like. And this is kind of more or less what you guys can do too. This is by no means something that's very difficult to do. You just go on that emoji site. I did give a link to it. It is in the presentation. So if you guys are interested in kind of just going to that and then figuring out the emojis you want to use, and again, you don't have to use emojis, but it's just something I've gotten in the habit of doing. Okay, so this screenshot is basically just naming your growth tools. And I mean, there's not much that needs to be said here. You can see it. It's all named nicey, so you kind of know what it's all about. These are mainly for templates, so that's why there's like zero traffic at all. It's all templatized stuff. So I didn't need to kind of, blur things out there. Okay, so the next one here is actually, and I know I made this like, I just wanted to take one screenshot and I was like, I'll just make a bunch of arrows everywhere.
I think we need one more arrow.
Yeah,
just one more.
Yeah, yeah. I should have maybe took this in a couple different steps, but I was like, oh, man, there's already so much. So how to get to naming custom field, bot fields, and OTN topics is when you're in the back end of ManyChat, you actually want to click the settings. And then the next step you want to do is actually click either fields or OTN topics based on what you want to do. So if you wanted to do OTN topics, then you'd click OTN. If you wanted to do custom fields and bot fields, then you'd click fields. It's right under automation. And then the third step is you'll see all your different custom fields here. And this is where you can actually just click into it and then just edit whatever the custom field is. And then kind of the last thing is if you want to do bot fields, then you just click bot fields here. Again, this is something that I would say this like really being a perfectionist, because this is something that will not help you at all in the slightest. But again, it's just to give an idea of what these fields are used for and just give them a little bit of context to the team that might be using the ManyChat account as well. But usually just the name itself should describe it quite well. But again, if you want to go really into it and be really organized, you can give it a description as well. Okay, so that's it kind of for just organization, guys. There's quite a lot there, but organization would be, if this is prioritized, which I didn't kind of segment this in priority scale, this would probably be like kind of the least important, especially if you're kind of, solo, then I would say you don't need to be that organized, because again, you should be able to just keep track of where things are yourself. I'd say it's a good idea to get in the practice of doing it, but again, if you're doing things on your own, then I wouldn't worry too much about keeping things extremely organized. Unless you're maybe working with clients and so on, then I would say, okay, it might be a good idea to just get in the habit of doing it. That way it comes off as a little bit more professional. It's easier for yourself, because when you are managing a lot of accounts, it can get pretty confusing. Just being like, oh man, where did I put this? I forget now. Especially when you got like 10 or even more. So that's why I tend to be really organized as much as I can be anyways. Okay, so basic setup, guys. Now this is something, I'm not gonna lie, this could probably take 2 hours just talking about all these things right here. So unfortunately, I will not have the time to go into everything here, but I hope in the same token, there are recordings of past webinars that we've done that talk about specific things like internal giveaways, as well as sign up flows. The welcome message is kind of tied into sign up flows. And again, you guys will actually have resources to this, like the flows themselves, and can theoretically set them up all by yourselves without really needing the videos, especially if you're a little bit more comfortable with ManyChat. But if you're not as comfortable and you need kind of that video guidance, then I would highly recommend going into kind of the past recordings, the webinars that we've done in the past. So that way you can kind of take a look at that and just follow along.
And Tyler, just to quickly note on that, I dropped it in our chat for accessing those replays, because obviously we've got today's subject matter. I think we've touched on, man, now I'm trying to remember, 4 or 5 different trainings that cover other very specific areas. So definitely take a look in the chat, and I can drop that link again if we need it. But it, of course, will take you to a ManyChat flow to access those prior recordings.
Correct. Yep. So, and there's a point, I think in the flow, I didn't edit the scripts, but I edited it. So like if you just paste in all, like if you, essentially the way that the ManyChat flow that Troy's talking about, you go through the flow, it's going to say, oh, you need to have a live account or like some type of account. I actually edited that part, so you don't need to have like a real Seller.Tools account with us. I would really highly recommend you get one, because a lot of these flows won't make too much sense without a Seller.Tools account, because it uses the automation within Seller.Tools. Some of these I will say that they don't use it, but it's just kind of all pushes towards rebate giveaways and automating that kind of process. Giving out those distributions of gift cards and so on is kind of something that I mean, it just saves you a crazy amount of time. So if you were to do it all by hand, because I remember, about 2 years ago, that's what we used to do, is like we used to do it through PayPal, and we had to issue them one at a time, and we figured out how to do it in bulk, and we thought we were like crazy advanced at that point. And I remember setting up Zapier. Anyways, so it just makes a lot more sense to just get Seller.Tools, especially if you plan on doing these rebate giveaways. Okay, So I think I veered off path there a little bit. But these kind of 4 flows, and I do plan on adding more and more. An example would be like Instagram influencer sign up flow. That's something I do plan on adding at some point. And there's a couple other ones that I'm thinking of that's more maybe geared towards rebates themselves, like add-on flows, like link laundering, which was supposed to be this week's topic, but got switched around a little bit. So that's something I do plan on adding down the line. But these are the 4 kind of flows slash, that I would say that you want to set up before even running any ranking campaign. So these 4 flows are definitely something you want to set up beforehand, just because it will help you out. Some of them you can even say like, oh, there's more. Like an example would be like Facebook liking or something like that, where instead of referring a friend, you can ask them to like the Facebook page or something. So you can get into that, but I'm just saying these are the 4 that I would highly recommend. And I do this for basically any kind of client I go into their account, and then I just install these kind of templates, and then I organize the flow layout, like the foldering and so on. And then when we start running rebates, then I'm already kind of set to succeed. Okay, so the next one. So again, I didn't have any screenshots of these ones. Again, guys, this by itself could be a couple hours just going through the flows and so on. So I didn't take any screenshots of it. And again, we do have recording. So yeah, the next thing is the live chat snippets. So let me just exit out, and I'm gonna give you guys kind of access to these are the snippets I've used in the past. And I will go into how to make a live chat snippet. And essentially what a live chat snippet is just you grab, let's say, a certain text that would come up when you're dealing with customer support. So an example of this would be maybe they left you good feedback about the product. You can just say, oh, thanks for giving us feedback. We really appreciate it. And essentially, instead of typing that out every single time, you can actually click a little button inside the live chat tab, and it automatically populates this text. And then you can just send that message to them right away. So it saves you a little bit of time. It's nothing crazy, but it is just something that's worth setting up, especially if you have kind of your own customer support team. You just make them all these snippets that they can use. So that way it saves them a little bit of time. And it's something that you guys can all kind of be on the same page when you're doing. So let me just... So I think that's all of them. Again, I guess I didn't really need to put it in the chat, but one thing that you when you guys do have access, kind of like Google Slides, you'll see that this is all here, and you guys just copy paste it, and you guys can make your own as well. I would highly recommend making your own that's kind of maybe geared towards the brand, so on. So let's go into actually making the snippet itself inside ManyChat. So the first thing you need to do is once you're logged into kind of the ManyChat account, you need to click the little cogwheel, which is the settings. Then you need to go into the live chat tab, right? It's more or less like at the top. And then there'll be kind of a section right here, and it's called snippet. And this is where you can have all your snippets, and like you'll see all of them. On this particular account, we didn't have any snippets on there. So you just click new snippet, and then this is where you actually would make your snippet. So the first thing you want to do is just name that snippet. Keep it short. Do not have it long, because the longer it is, the more room it's going to take up in your little live chat tab. And if you have a lot of long ones, then you have to like scroll through them sometimes. So I would highly recommend trying to really make it a short little title that describes it very well, of what your kind of the message is. And then you put the full message right here. And again, in this case, I was just put example name and example message. And then the last thing you want to do is you want to tick this if you want to allow all users, meaning everybody on the account, to have access to this snippet. I would highly recommend pretty much always putting this on. But if you want to make it like a personalized message, that it's like maybe you have your name in there, right? Like, hello, this is John. How would you like? How can I help you, or something? Then maybe you wouldn't want that for everybody, right? Because everybody might have a different name. So just keep that in mind, that you normally want to put this on. But if you're doing like a personal message, then maybe you would tick that off. Okay, the last thing is this is how you actually use the kind of snippets. Again, it's like all these arrows everywhere. But when you're in the live chat tab, you'll see the conversations. Again, there's 2 groups of conversations. Unfortunately, this kind of message is blocking it. There's the open folder and then the done folder. And usually you want to try to make sure everybody's in the done folder. That way the conversations aren't open. In this case, I just took myself in as an example. And when you're on the person's profile, you'll have these options right here. And these are where the snippets are found, guys. So if you have a whole bunch of snippets like I was talking about, you can have so many that it actually you have to start scrolling. So that's why you have to try. I would recommend keeping the names short so they're not scrolling for, like, the support team isn't scrolling for a whole bunch of time trying to find the snippet that matches whatever problem they're having. So what will happen is when you click the snippet right here, it actually will automatically paste in the message right here. And then if you want, you can edit the message a little bit. You can maybe change a couple of different things, and then you can hit send message. So it's just a quick way of like copy paste essentially, and an easy way for your customer support team to just kind of deal with the live chat tab. All right, so that's it for snippets and like how to use them, how to make them. So the next thing here, oh, looks like Troy wants to talk about.
Well, I thought too, now maybe be a good time to, because I know you talked about organizing and your account, and we've mentioned a few free flows, and we've been sharing some in the chat. If it'd be a good time to drop in that Google Doc for others to maybe have access to all of the great resources, free flows, list management, internal giveaway flows, rebate flows. Hopefully this doesn't blow people away too much. Take it one flow at a time. Yeah, for sure. But Tyler does a great job of developing very advanced resources for free. And that's what I wanted to make sure we just took a quick second for those that really wanted to make sure they had access to this and tap into it right away. They know exactly where to find it.
That's correct. So essentially, guys, this is where the beta flows are right now. Again, this will probably end up on the site at some point. I don't know when, but I'm hoping it'll end up soon, but we'll see. So I got the first section, and I kind of made this in sections over here on the left side. You can kind of navigate that. But the kind of first section is all the rebate automations. So again, if you want to maybe issue certain type of gift cards, then you can do that here. Right? Maybe that be Venmo, PayPal, or Visa. And I even made a multiple options version, which actually gives the users / customers the option of what rebate version they want, whether that be Venmo, PayPal, or Visa, or Amazon, so on. You can actually limit the methods that are available. So this one's my favorite, but again, if you want to just say, oh, they're only going to have PayPal, or oh, they're only going to have pick a reward, keep in mind that PayPal and Visa, or not PayPal, well, PayPal and Venmo do cost a little bit more in terms of like issuing the rebate itself, just because there are a little bit of additional fees there. So if you wanted to limit that as options, then you could. And then if you scroll down the line, you'll see actually my list management flows. So this is mainly for running internal giveaways. You'll even see an internal giveaway flow example. So this is where you would actually broadcast to your audience. Again, I can't go into crazy amount of detail on internal giveaways because that's literally an hour topic by itself. But this is, like, in my opinion, one of the most important things to learn. And this is something I've never seen anybody talk about it publicly. And even privately, not too many people do talk about this or even understand the concept of it. So this is basically just like messaging your list about a giveaway in a very strategic way, where you're not just broadcasting to everybody at the same time, because you want to try to get sales throughout a kind of, say, a 14-day period instead of a 24-hour period. Okay, so that's list management. So the next one here is kind of all the different sign-up flows. And again, this is where the welcome message comes in. This is where the sign up to rebate giveaway program or sign up to a specific rebate giveaway and then there's also solo ad. That's kind of a long topic all on its own. Paid messages, very useful if they're outside of the 24-hour rule and you have no other way of communicating with them. And I will touch on this a little bit later. Influencers will probably come up at some point. It's not a priority. I think insert cards is. And then if I scroll down, there's different finding methods. This is one that I was working on not too long ago, and I plan on finishing this one soon, which is just laundering your links through different channels like YouTube, Pinterest, Facebook, and so on, to essentially give the illusion that traffic is coming from somewhere else other than Messenger, to basically bolster that ranking juice. So Amazon does look at these things, guys. Like I can almost guarantee it, but the thing is, like, I can't guarantee it because nobody actually knows how A9 works. As much as people will say, oh, this is how it works, we don't know, but we have good estimates and good ideas, because, you know, if you do something and then something happens and you kind of say, oh, it's probably related to that. I could almost guarantee you guys, though, they are looking at traffic sources. So another thing is the footer flows. Footer flows are just something that you could put at the end of your kind of rebate flows. And a good example of this is referring a friend. And another kind of example that isn't here right now, but is kind of asking them to like the Facebook page or leave a review on the Facebook page. This actually does kind of help you in terms of maybe combating some of the negative feedback you could get just from running rebates. That does happen. And then the last thing, or well, the two last things, is meta interactions. So this is let me just think of the best way to describe it. This is basically trying to get users to do more on-page SEO, more on-page actions on your page, on your detail page. So that way it basically gives Amazon the, not the illusion, but it gives them other kind of metrics to look at that, like, oh, look, these users stayed on the page for X amount of time. Oh, they actually went from this account or this product detail page to this product detail page, and then they bought this one. Or maybe they added this product to cart and then they waited X amount of time and then they purchased. It basically just makes it so it looks a little bit more organic than if you were to just tell them, here's the product, find it, buy it. And again, like you can argue that Amazon's not looking at this, and whether or not you're right, it's kind of in the air and nobody can really disprove you. And so, yeah. Anyways, so the next thing is insert cards. I call them post-purchase because realistically, you don't actually need an insert card for these flows to work, but most people would use an insert card. But you can theoretically use retargeting Facebook ads, and that's just a little bit more advanced on that one. But this is something I am trying to implement, and that's all the kind of beta flows. So I veered off track a little bit. Let's get back to kind of the main topics there. I just wanted to go over that because Troy was saying that was a good little resource there.
Just wanted to make sure everybody had it. Yeah. I mean, you built all that stuff. I know, again, you have a tendency to gloss over a lot of your hard work that you give away for free. And I'm just not going to let you do that. So making sure everybody has it.
I mean, there's so much of it that it's hard to cover everything in an immense amount of detail in like 1 hour. Like, so it is tough.
Well, I always like to put it, what you do, Tyler, is, the hardest part of ManyChat is you have to kind of build a car, and you're in a race. When you're on Amazon, compare and contrast, there's other ASINs. It's, when somebody enters a keyword, you can't dominate the search results. You, as a matter of fact, will compete. And so when you're in that race, the best thing we can do is give you the keys to some of the best cars. If this really gives you great ranking, this gives you great reviews, if this really builds your list, those are three massive pillars when it comes to the 80-20 of Amazon success. So like I said, it's not such a small thing when you're giving out all these cars, and they're all very fast and they're all very efficient, and they've been stress tested too, right? They've been through some races. So I'm just going to keep using that analogy. I find it fitting.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Okay. That's fine. So to kind of go into the next subtopic here is cleaning your audience within ManyChat, because this is something I've actually never seen anybody talk about, which is, it kind of blows my mind, because the way ManyChat charges people is basically on how many subscribers they have. And a lot of accounts, and I do mean a lot, like I've seen quite a lot, will actually have a whole bunch of subscribers that they can't message. So they're just technically paying ManyChat more, and I'm sure ManyChat doesn't mind, but it's not the best use of your dollars, right? So to actually go into how to clean your list is I actually make these segments so they automatically populate whenever users are inside said segment. So it's essentially filters, and if they match said filters, then they get inside that segment, and then you're able to just unsubscribe them. I believe they called it something else now. It's not unsubscribe anymore. They named it, I forget what they named it now, but they changed the naming, which again, Facebook and ManyChat, and I mean, even Seller.Tools now, we also have to change things just to mix things up, make your guys' life a little harder. So anyways, what I'm trying to say is that you essentially want to make these segments just so in the future, when you're not able to message these users, or they're basically essentially useless leads, you can get rid of them. That way you're minimizing the kind of payment you actually have to give ManyChat in order to have these leads. So let me go into this. So actually, before I go into it, there are two different buckets I have. I have leads I'm unable to contact, which are very they're essentially leads I can still technically contact through a paid message. And again, this was actually, I think it was last week's topic. Yeah, I believe it was last week that we went through paid messages. And this is just a way of saying sponsored or sponsored message. That's what Facebook calls it. And this is just you paying to message somebody. It's not the most ideal way of communicating with your audience, but again, if they're outside of the 24-hour rule and you don't have their email or SMS, it is a way of re-engaging with them. And that way, and it's much cheaper than just a regular Facebook ad that's through kind of the newsfeed. So yeah, just keep that in mind. It's much, much cheaper. And then the other segment is useless leads, where they're actually outside of even the paid message window, which not a lot of people might know there's actually a paid message window of a year. So if there's people outside of that year window, then those leads are literally unreachable unless you have their phone number or email. So just keep that in mind. Or OTN. OTN is another good way around it. And that's why I do really, really strongly advocate for OTN, just because it's one of the better ways to communicate with your audience, because it is free. Because even email and SMS, as much as it's very cheap, it's not technically free because you do have to pay per message and so on. But it is really good way to kind of re-engage with them. Okay, so going into segments, guys. So when you're in the back end of ManyChat, you need to click this little button guy right here. So it's essentially just the audience tab. And then you're going to essentially see more or less this. I already added the filters here, but what you need to do is you need to start adding filters. When you click the filter button, this little condition will come up. You click the condition, and this is where you can start adding filters. The first filter you should add is anything that has an OTN topic, right? So you just select all your OTNs, and you have to say isn't whatever the OTN topic is. And then you would say is her email opt-in is unknown, meaning like they have not opted in. Same with SMS. So these two are kind of standardized, and the OTN one might be different based on your particular scenario, right? Like yours might be named a little bit different, but it should look more or less the same. And then the last thing you want to do is last seen more than 20, basically a year. And that will basically say these are all the leads. And in this particular account, there was quite a bit that we can't message because we couldn't even get to them through a paid message, and we don't have OTN, or we don't have OTN or email or any of these kind of other messaging platforms to get to these leads. So they're essentially just costing us more money, essentially. So theoretically, we would want to unsubscribe all of them. And how you would do that, the unsubscribing process, is you'd select all of them. So you'd click this kind of green box right here. It's all selected right now. And you hit bulk actions. And then from there, I believe you're going to want to click something. I believe it's unsubscribe, but again, I think ManyChat changed it not too long ago. It's like a month ago. But yeah, you're going to want to click some type of opt-out, I think is a messenger opt-out, I believe is what it's called now. So, something like that. And then it'll kind of unsubscribe them. It'll make your audience a little, like quite a bit smaller. Well, maybe not quite a bit smaller, but it'll make them smaller so you're not paying for just the leads that are basically useless. Okay, screenshot 3. So actually creating a segment. So actually I did skip a little part here. So step 1, you add the filters. Again, I went over that quite well. Step 2 would be actually clicking the create segment, and then you're going to see this kind of screenshot right here. So you just would name the segment, and then you give a description. Again, the description is fairly optional, but I would advise putting one there. And then you would hit confirm. And then what that'll do is it'll kind of make your custom audience or your segment right here inside kind of the segments tab, and you'll see all the different segments you can have. And again, you can have a lot more. I tend to only have like 2, but in some accounts I'll have quite a bit more in terms of like helping me run internal giveaways sometimes. But most of the time I just have 2. I have like the kind of useless leads, and then unable to contact leads. Unable to contact means you have to use a paid message. The useless leads are like leads that are like actually useless. Okay, so yeah, I think I did define these 2 quite well. But yeah, useless leads, again, you can't contact them. They're outside of the year, and you don't have any other information. This is what it looks like here. And then unable to contact, you can still get a hold of as long as you're using a paid message. So in theory, you just have to pay for it, which does suck, but hey, at least you could still message them. Okay, that's it for segments. Again, so there's only 2 segments. And a lot of this, I know it's been almost an hour now, but a lot of this, like this process, all of these things that I'm going through this is basically an SOP, if you will. it only takes me roughly 30 minutes to an hour to set up all these flows and all this kind of jazz, as long as I have the proper permissions. If you don't have the Facebook admin permissions, then it's pretty hard to turn off the 2 automations there that I went over at the start of the call here. Okay, so the next subtopic is creating custom events. This is actually something that if you have certain ManyChat flows, it could automatically come with it. Inside the beta flows, I didn't actually put this by default just because I didn't want to bloat anything with the kind of Seller.Tools kind of ManyChat templates. I didn't want to go overboard because I can easily do that and just make it overwhelming, and then nobody but a handful of people could edit it, and that's not what I wanted to do. I wanted to make it very friendly, but still extremely advanced compared to kind of what's out there. So creating custom events, this is basically just a way to kind of track certain conversion events that might be occurring. The one I use all the time is rebate offer purchased. Or I think I name it a little bit different than that, but or yeah, purchased rebate giveaway offer. That's what I name it. And that's just basically tracking the amount of rebates that account is doing. I think in one of my previous webinars inside internal giveaway, I go over actually how many, that was how I tracked how many rebates were getting done. I think that account was doing like around either 300 to 200 a day. And then at the end, it was starting to taper off a little bit just because we weren't launching as much. But yeah, this is just a good way to track how many rebates that account specifically is doing every day. It's just a good little metric to keep a track of. But you can track other metrics if you want. Like you can track whenever somebody goes through your sign up flow, or whenever they refer a friend or something along those lines. You can definitely track those kind of events if you want. And I will go into kind of how to do that. And then the last thing I'll be going into is how to kind of create or not really create, but add and remove users from a custom audience or Facebook custom audience within ManyChat, or yeah, within ManyChat. But keep in mind, you have to actually create that custom audience before being able to do that within ManyChat. So unfortunately, I'm not going to, I don't have the slides for that in this particular scenario, but if you really want to learn how to make a custom audience inside Facebook, there are probably hundreds, if not thousands of videos going over how to do that. So, okay, so the first thing to go, conversion events. So again, we go into the settings of ManyChat, the little cog icon, and then we go, you have to scroll, well, actually, you don't have to scroll too much. But right under the automation tab, there's conversion events. And that's the little button you want to click right there. And then you're going to want to click new conversion event. And then from here, you just have to name it, give it a description, and then click create. You can actually add revenue to this conversion event. I don't actually use that at all. But if this is something you want to add, you can definitely do that. So that is something you can do if you'd like to. So after you create it, it's going to actually then be created, and then to actually use it when you're inside ManyChat, the flow builder, you'll see it right under, well, in my case, it might not be perfectly here, it might be somewhere further down the line for you, but in my case, it was right under tags, and it's called log conversion event. And when you click that, I believe, yeah, or no, I don't have a screenshot going over that. But essentially when you click it, you would just then pick the event that you're trying to target. And then that will trigger whenever the users get to this action node. So that way it's keeping track of it. Okay, the kind of next screenshots I want to go over is the Facebook custom ad audience, kind of removing and adding people to it. And essentially, the first thing you need to do is you need to make sure that Facebook ads is enabled on the Facebook page itself or on the ManyChat account. So you just click the Facebook icon, and then you'll pretty much like click get started, or I forget the actual button that you're going to click, but you're going to click something along those lines. And it's really, really simple as long as you have admin access to the Facebook page, as well as the ads account that's kind of tied to that Facebook page. And once you have that connected, the next thing is when you're in Flow Builder, you're going to have an option to actually click Facebook custom audience. And again, this is like in the action node, it's kind of in the middle. You have to scroll down a little bit. And when you click this, you're going to have kind of these options right here. And you can either add or remove somebody from a custom audience. And you have to pick the ad account that's targeted, and then the custom audience that's under that ad account. And I don't have a screenshot kind of going over all of that, but it's really a simple process. And this is used, like I've used it in the past for when I used to do rebate giveaways and used to run Facebook ads to it. You can actually create a Facebook custom audience and then add those people to said custom audience once they basically have gotten the offer, right? So as soon as they get they go through that verification process, you add them to a custom audience, and then that custom audience, when you're before making the ad, you can actually have them excluded to the custom audience, whatever that specific custom audience is. You can also have this custom audience remove somebody when they unsubscribe from the bot. I've seen others do that as well. That's definitely something you can do. Not something I always do, but it's something that you can do just to make things a little bit simpler. In terms of like, if you're going to reuse these leads, like you're going to do custom ad audiences and then you're going to retarget them with a certain ad. If somebody unsubscribes, they probably don't want to see your page anymore. Okay, guys, this is the tail end. I was able to do it in an hour, pretty surprised. So again, these are the 6 main things. You can use this kind of Google Slides as more or less an SOP on what you can do. You don't have to do everything here. Like maybe when you take a look at it, you can just copy maybe a lot of the slides and then just remove certain things that you don't like. And this could be your SOP that maybe you hand off to your kind of employee or your VA or whoever. And that way, when they do set up an account, they know, okay, what should I be doing? It doesn't go into how to make a Facebook page and all that, but I mean, that's fairly simple all on its own. This is just mainly for setting up a ManyChat account, not really the Facebook page side of things. Troy, I saw you unmuted really quickly, and then
I just click it on and off, make sure you know I'm here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
No, but that's awesome. This is the kind of stuff too you easily overlook when you're using ManyChat, where it's like, oh, okay, wait, I'm actually, as a matter of fact, building an audience. Well, let me create a custom audience. And then conversion events we use a lot for getting more granular with performance. So if you're an agency, or even if you're a brand owner, or you're just handing this off to a VA or member of your team, that lets you know how successful your ManyChat flows are. Like, what steps are people getting to? Are they meeting that criteria? And then you can see that those conversion events in your analytics, and know how optimized your flows are. So these are kind of the things. This is that maintenance / optimization to make sure that you've got things organized, you've got things lined up, you know what's performing, isolate any issues. And then, of course, when you do this, I always I take ManyChat against something like PPC, where it's like you're building an audience as a matter of just using ManyChat. So think of all of the different ways that you can segment, utilize that audience, so you get the greatest ROI on it. So, but great stuff, man.
Yeah, that's I think there's one thing I did forget a little bit, and I just want to click into it just quickly. So here in ManyChat, if you go into, like, this is for when you create a custom event. I didn't go actually how to look at the analytics of that. So I thought I had a screenshot, but I didn't. Anyways, so when you're in the back end of ManyChat, you go into home, then you click insight, and then you would scroll down, and essentially your analytics will be right here for these custom events. So if, again, this one probably has nothing, because again, this is just kind of a test account, but you would click into your kind of analytics and you could say, okay, from, let's say, from a month, what was our events like? Okay, so let's take a look at that. And then you would see the analytics. Obviously, this is not the best example, but again, I do remember in my internal giveaways example, when I was going over this is one of the ways that I was actually tracking rebates through this one account. And this was one of the bigger clients that he was doing a lot of different rebates, like a lot of rebates kind of over, I think it was like a month and a half course of time anyways, that's my recording of it. And this is just a way to kind of keep track of how many rebates you're issuing. So like in the account, all in all.
Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah. So I think I made it so if I told myself I kept a mental note, if I had extra time, I would maybe go into the flows itself. But I feel like we're kind of already running at an hour, so I don't think I have any time really to go over all the different flows. So like Troy said, he did give you guys the link to actually sign up and see the past recordings. And essentially it'll look something like this. At some point, this will probably end up on YouTube or something like that. But the way this is worded is like, it kind of goes like, maybe I should have organized this a little bit better, but essentially you could see the timestamp of when this happened. Like, so like there's the year, then it's the month, and then it's the day. So this is the earliest one. This is then the next one, the next one, the next one, the next one, so on. And so if you wanted to start kind of from start to finish, you can take a look at that. I would say you would probably want to start from right here. This is the most important one, in my opinion, because this goes over internal giveaways. And internal giveaways is essentially talked about everywhere because of how important it is, because it's such a pivotal piece into everything that you pretty much do in terms of ManyChat, because it all kind of leads to running giveaways through the audience you already have, or maybe acquiring the audience so that way you can run a giveaway to the audience you get. Again, this is something that it has shocked me for a very long time to see that there's not that many people doing this, because of how just powerful it is to just reuse the audience you have. I'm not saying reuse them every single time. Obviously, you want to bring in new blood fairly consistently, but you can definitely reuse the leads you're already acquiring, because it's obviously like, might as well engage with those users, especially if they're coming through like an insert card or something. So like, they're real customers, so you can really reward them. Anyways, so that is it. I think.
Awesome.
Okay, do we have any questions? Because I feel like we probably do. I haven't actually been keeping an eye on the chat, because you said you've been keeping an eye on it.
There's only one, I think only one outstanding from Emily on the Q&A. But I do want to encourage everybody, please do drop your questions in there. And then while you're taking a look at that one, Tyler, just some quick housekeeping is, again, the replays have been posted in the chat. The links to the free ManyChat flows have been dropped in the chat. So you have access to both of those. I think those are the biggest free resources, one being content, one being tangible resources in terms of flows. I think there was one other thing I was going to mention, but Emily's killing it over here already in the chat. She's providing some great support.
Yeah, I've seen her question. That's a really, really good question. I will say I haven't done that, but it's something you can do. So basically what Emily's asking is, have you ever taken, essentially made a custom audience with all the useless subscribers, like the subscribers you were unable to kind of message anymore through even a paid message? You make a custom audience and then retarget them via a Facebook ad to try to get them to re-engage. And that is, I guess, a way you can definitely re-engage with them. But I will say I don't do that. Usually I just remove them, because usually it's just like we're thinning out the ManyChat account. We're just trying to get new leads and so on, move to the next people. So I will say I've never done that, but of course that is a way you can go around it. Like, you can take the leads that are useless and then put that in a custom audience and then retarget them through like the Facebook newsfeed or something along those lines. So it is an option, but I have not done that.
One thing I do want to mention, Tyler, because you mentioned link laundering and we shuffled that to a prior or another training. I want to make sure everybody that's here, make sure you save this link and join us next Thursday, because Tyler, let's go over that. I think that's such an advanced concept. It is such a cool way of using ManyChat to own your traffic and customer for the purposes of giving Amazon what it wants in terms of variety of traffic sources, how ManyChat allows us to own that journey. So do make sure you join us for that session as well.
Yeah, for sure. So I can maybe just explain a little bit of what it is. Essentially, link laundering is just a fancy way of saying you're taking your ManyChat traffic, you're sending them to what I would call a landing page, which is essentially maybe a dummy YouTube video or a Pinterest link or like a pin. And that traffic goes there, and then they click a link from there to go to your Amazon detail page. And then what that does is it makes it look like the traffic, or it basically is, but the traffic comes from a place that has higher domain authority. And Amazon does look at this. Like, I can almost guarantee you they do. Obviously, it's not like I'm, talking to A9's team and saying like, hey, do you guys look at this? Do you actually weigh this in? But I'll tell you right now, they definitely do, just based on kind of past results that I've had, especially using certain methods. They really do look at these places where the traffic comes from. And some places have higher domain authority than others. Like YouTube is probably the one that has the most, but I do like to mix it up a little bit between Pinterest and YouTube. And you could even throw in Facebook as well when adding in like videos, for example. Like you can have like a Facebook video inside your Facebook page. Like there's a way to have it so it's not published. Well, it's like published, but it's like unlisted, similar to YouTube. And essentially you'd send them there, and then they click a link, and then they go there. And that does just give the illusion the traffic is coming from there. It's not really the illusion, it actually is coming from there. But essentially, it's just like a metric that they are looking at. Like they're looking at so many things, guys. Like they're literally data scientists that work on the A9 team, and they're just all these little metrics that they keep track of. So the things that you can do as a seller to just try to amplify and tick off all these boxes, as many as you can anyways, the better and the more ranking juice you're going to get out of those leads. So it is just one of those, like Troy said, a fairly advanced tactic. I still think like buyer quality is still really, really big. And I know the customer list is out, and that's like a huge, just when we are really able to implement that, that'll be a massive thing all by itself, just because buyer score is huge. So, okay. Okay, so did I explain that right, Troy? Is that kind of what you wanted to?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Another thing, guys, is before maybe we end this call, if you guys do like want to kind of hire a ManyChat expert, or maybe you're not the most confident in ManyChat, like you kind of get what it is, you get what it does, but you're just like, man, I got already enough on my plate. I don't want to learn ManyChat and do all the Facebook rules and all this craziness. I would highly advise you go to kind of the ManyChat expert tab that we have at Seller.Tools, where we kind of list out all the experts that we've vetted. So we make sure that they're actually able to use Seller.Tools. They know their way around ManyChat. They know all the different functionalities. So these are kind of pre-vetted ManyChat experts that already understand kind of what it is that Amazon sellers are looking for. And of course, some of them tailor different services, right? Some of them might be focused a little bit more on the Shopify side. Some of them might be focused on more on the Facebook advertising side, so on. So you can definitely kind of look around, see which one kind of matches what you're looking for. If you got a couple different quotes here and there, and then bam, now you have an expert that's kind of on your team, that's on your side. And now you don't necessarily need to do all the ManyChat work. And if you want them to even just, set up similar, like basic flows like we just went over here, that's something that I can almost guarantee all of them would be able to do. So again, if you guys are interested in just going through and just handing off the work, then I would highly recommend going to the experts tab.
Awesome, Tyler. I have to run. I've got to hop on a call, but I just want to say great to see everybody who joined us, and really appreciate the great questions, chats, the support from some of the experts that you touched on, Tyler, Emily, Jocelyn, some awesome rock stars and people that have joined us consistently. And hopefully we'll see you guys next week, but I'm going to hand it back off to you, Tyler, and good seeing everybody.
Okay. Thanks, Troy. I'll just answer a couple different questions and I'll be on my way as well. Okay, guys, so I see this is one question here. Somebody had hired somebody in Fiverr. They did kind of a Facebook ad and there was no clicks and impressions after a week. So how would this help? So essentially, I mean, obviously, I just kind of plugged in the Facebook, the kind of ManyChat experts. I would definitely advise going through that. Going through Fiverr, I'm not going to pretend like there's no good workers there. Obviously, there's like a lot of qualified leads there, but Fiverr is a little bit more hit and miss, I will say, just because you don't know who's on kind of the other end. Even if they do have a lot of reviews and social proof, and I have heard some horror stories of people, let's say, abusing the way kind of the gift card work. Jesus, I'm trying to find the right words. The way it works through giving out gift cards, like the gift card distribution, right? And I've also seen, and this is more like a really big horror story with one bigger client, and essentially they were using templates that were not necessarily built properly. And what happened is users, or I should say customers slash users, were able to get as many gift cards as they wanted. So I mean, you guys could kind of tell what happened there, right? So yeah, that was kind of a horror story where they lost quite a bit of money there. So I would definitely advise making sure that the people that are kind of working on your account, like they really do know their way around ManyChat. Because when you do automate things like if something's done wrong, or it has maybe an error, don't get me wrong, this isn't all the time, but some errors can really be costly, especially when you're automating it. So an example of this would be like connecting a button saying get my rebate, and then there's no protections, and they just keep clicking the button like over and over and over, and then they get a whole bunch of rebates. And they clear out your wallet fairly quickly. So obviously, again, that's why I would recommend going to kind of the Seller.Tools experts, because they're kind of vetted experts that already know their way around ManyChat, so they know what to do. And again, we do have resources that are kind of vetted and went through the test of time of just making sure that they're good. A lot of the beta flows that I've give access to are flows that I've basically taken from myself. And I've just maybe edited a few things here, maybe improved a few things here, added some comments, so on, to make sure that like they are very refined flows. Like some of these flows, I'm not going to pretend like it took me like years to make, but it took me quite a while to make them, and then I just refined it over time, and so on. Right, I've been doing this for quite a few minutes now, so these flows are very refined, and they're pretty advanced, even though they are kind of given to you guys for free. And when you get something for free, it usually just disvalues it a little bit. But I'm telling you right now, you probably couldn't even get this through paid courses, just because they're that advanced. At least in my opinion. Maybe there are some paid courses that give you guys much more advanced things. But anyways, I think that's it. I'm going to end it on that note. It was nice seeing you guys. Nice answering all the questions. I will see you guys next week.